The paramedics wouldn't cross my driveway because the spike strips glinted like shark teeth under the porch light, and the HOA president with her helmet hair and trembling clipboard was shrieking in a high-pitched voice that this was neighborhood safety protocol while two police officers sized up the tire-popped minivan she'd just disabled. Somewhere beneath the hiss of 3 flats, my Ring camera chimed with its automated voice saying motion-detected trespasser. It pinged her face in 4K resolution. I'm Nolan Breck, quiet IT guy, proud owner of a small ranch in Willowcrest Meadows, a neighborhood where the grass is short, the gossip is long, and the HOA newsletter is treated like scripture. I keep to myself. I mow on Sundays. I wave at neighbors passing by. Enter the Karen-in-chief, Laurel Pennington. She rose to power in a landslide of 2 volunteers and a bowl of store-bought cookies, then ruled like a suburban warlord. Laurel believed porch swings were visual hazards, wind chimes were noise pollution, and men who minded their own business were suspicious loners. My crime was parking my blue Subaru in my own driveway overnight, apparently against a covenant she found in a supplemental addendum no one else had seen. Spoiler alert, it was typed in papyrus font. The document appeared mysteriously after she lost an argument about my perfectly legal shed at the last board meeting. She waved it around like she'd discovered the Dead Sea Scrolls, claiming it had been misfiled for years in the community center's lost and found between a deflated pool float and someone's forgotten casserole dish. Laurel started small with her campaign against me. Warning tags on my mailbox written in glittery gel pen. Anonymous notes with smiley stickers demanding I move the car for curb appeal, each one progressively more passive-aggressive than the last. One actually said in cutesy handwriting that good neighbors think of others first with a winky face that somehow managed to look threatening. When I ignored the emojis of tyranny, she leveled up with early morning doorbell dings at precisely 6:01 a.m. because the noise ordinance ended at 6, routine inspections with a measuring tape where she'd photograph my grass if a single blade exceeded the 3-inch maximum, and a camera pole poking over my fence to document violations while she hummed the Mission Impossible theme apparently unaware that I could hear her. She cited me for non-compliant patio lights because they were soft white instead of warm white, which she insisted created an unwelcoming atmosphere, improper recycling bin orientation because the wheels faced the alley, which was apparently a cardinal sin punishable by a $30 fine per occurrence, and the unforgivable garden gnome of an unapproved ethnicity. It was terracotta. She actually brought a color wheel to demonstrate that terracotta wasn't on the pre-approved earth tone palette despite it literally being made of earth. She photographed it from 17 angles and created a PowerPoint presentation titled Garden Violations, a Case Study in Non-Compliance. It would have been funny if she hadn't started trespassing. I caught her chalking tire marks on my driveway at 5:43 a.m., using what looked like crime scene investigation techniques while muttering under her breath the word gotcha followed by something about finally having evidence for her dossier. Then came the fine starting at $75 for the first infraction, then $150 for what she called willful continuation of violations, then $250 when I had the audacity to put up Halloween decorations 3 days before her approved October 15th start date, ratcheting up like a game show where the prize is bankruptcy. She CC'd the board on every email along with what she referred to as concerned residents who turned out to be her book club friends and her chiropractor, signed them warmly, which felt more like a threat than a pleasantry, and ended with a Bible verse about obedience, which I'm 90% sure she Frankenstein from Pinterest because Proverbs definitely doesn't mention anything about driveway compliance. On Tuesday at 7:12 p.m., a tow truck idled at the curb as Laurel marched up with a bright orange boot and a tote bag labeled compliance kit. From that tote she produced, God help us, foldable spike strips, the kind you see in cop shows right before the ad break. She sniffed and said in a condescending tone that these were community assets, laying them across the mouth of my driveway like she was christening a ship. She continued saying I had refused to comply with night parking restrictions and these would encourage movement. My neighbor, a nurse finishing a double shift, pulled into my drive to swing around and nearly mounted the spikes. Her van shuddered, tires sighing flat. She stumbled out in scrubs, staring at the shredded rubber. Laurel's eyes glittered with satisfaction. The nurse called 911. Laurel dialed 2 on me. She told dispatch in a panicked voice that I was threatening an official and that I had brandished a tool. It was a phone. My Ring feed captured everything, including Laurel dragging the strips with gardening gloves and accidentally nicking my tire wall with a screwdriver. The cops arrived to a scene that looked like a NASCAR caution flag situation. 2 officers and 1 sergeant arrived on scene. I kept my voice low and professional, offered water to my neighbor who was on the verge of tears after working a 16-hour shift in the pediatric ward, pulled up the Ring clips on my phone showing weeks of harassment, and slid over a nice printed packet I'd been preparing for this exact moment containing timestamps of every trespass, previous emails where she threatened to make my life a living hell if I didn't comply, the real bylaws I'd obtained from the county clerk's office, and the highlight reel of Laurel's greatest hits, including trespass at dawn with her wearing what looked like tactical gear from a discount spy shop, chalk tagging my driveway like she was marking a crime scene, and camera on a stick surveillance that violated at least 3 privacy laws according to the lawyer friend I'd consulted. The sergeant raised an eyebrow at the spike strips, then looked at the package of evidence I'd provided, then back at Laurel, who was trying to explain that she had purchased them from a law enforcement surplus website for community safety purposes. The sergeant said firmly that these were law enforcement tools. Laurel chirped in response that actually they were community deterrents and that their insurance covered such measures. The sergeant cut her off saying, "Ma'am, please stop talking." They inspected the screwdriver scuff, the flattened tires, and the supplemental addendum, which was indeed formatted like a 2008 smoothie bar menu. Meanwhile, the tow guy bailed, muttering that he wasn't getting sued over a Subaru. Then a different badge showed up. A county code enforcement officer I'd emailed last week, plus a representative from the HOA's management company who were apparently looped into Laurel's spike strip enthusiasm and drove over in a panic. The rep visibly paled at the words liability exposure. Laurel tried one last flourish. She pointed at my Subaru and announced in an authoritative voice that they were seizing it as collateral. The management rep hissed back that they don't seize things. The sergeant took a breath you could steer a ship through. He addressed Ms. Pennington, saying she had placed an obstruction in a private driveway, damaged property, and attempted to misrepresent legal authority. He turned to me and asked if I wanted to press charges. I am by nature calm, but watching my neighbor comfort her exhausted kids on a curb while her van sagged on 3 dead tires did something unsentimental to me. I said yes, and added that she owes my neighbor 4 new tires. When the cuffs came out, Laurel clenched her jaw like she'd bite the metal. The neighborhood peeped from blinds. A jogger stopped mid-stride. Someone's golden doodle sat down like it understood justice was being served. As they read Laurel her rights, the management rep started rapid-firing phone calls. The code officer wrote citations that looked like a CVS receipt. My ring feed caught Laurel, red-faced, turning to the officer and hissing that she was the law here. He blinked and responded that she was at best a newsletter. By Friday, Willowcrest Meadows held a special meeting that had the highest attendance in HOA history, with people standing in the back recording on their phones. Laurel arrived with an attorney who resembled a hangry scarecrow in an ill-fitting suit who kept shuffling papers and whispering that this wasn't what he signed up for when he took her case. She left without her title after a unanimous vote of no confidence. Her key fob deactivated mid-speech as she tried to argue that the spike strips were a proactive safety measure approved by her interpretation of subsection 12.3 of the amended guidelines that nobody could find. The board voted to reimburse my neighbor the full $3,000 for her van repairs plus lost wages, rescind all my violations retroactively with a written apology, and fund a mandatory de-escalation and governance seminar, which is HOA speak for please stop cosplaying as RoboCop and learn what actual authority means. Laurel now does community service, 20 hours a week for 6 months. Collecting trash along the boulevard she once patrolled with ruler and rage while wearing an orange vest that says community service in bold letters that everyone can see from their windows. The criminal court ordered restitution totaling $8,500 to cover the damaged vehicle and my legal fees, a no-contact directive that extends 500 feet from my property, and a personal ban on any device designed to puncture, immobilize, or intimidate, including but not limited to spike strips, boot clamps, and even those bird spikes she tried to argue were for pest control. When the judge read the final amount, including additional legal fees and punitive damages that pushed the total to $15,000 plus 18 months of probation with anger management classes, Laurel's face went from red to white to a shade I can only describe as defeated gray, and she whispered in a barely audible voice that this couldn't be happening to her before her attorney grabbed her arm as she swayed like she might faint right there in the courtroom.